going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to the Call of Duty community, this community is notorious for going to other games and critiquing them in the worst ways possible. Instead of actually respecting games for what they are and what they've been built around, they go in and try to turn certain things around to make it more like Call of Duty. Because again, for some reason, a lot of the Call of Duty community does not like to branch out and actually try true different games. They just want to play Call of Duty and Call of Duty only, and when they hop into a different alternative game, they try to turn those games into exactly that. Call of Duty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, sadly, the new Battlefield is under attack right now from the Call of Duty community, and boy, oh boy, we have to go ahead and discuss every last detail of it today. But ladies and gentlemen, before we go and dive deep, if you guys are interested in more content just like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. We post daily here at 8 morning Eastern Time. And of course, if you guys are interested in my live streams, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch. And actually, today we won't be live, but I will be live again on Wednesday. So of course, if you guys want to tune in, I got a link to my Twitch channel down in the description of this video. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I actually saw this post over on Twitter. It was by Alex Zedra, I believe is how you pronounce her last name. She was actually one of the character models for Modern Warfare 2019. And I'll be real with you, I respect her because she's always been on, team screw skill-based matchmaking and, all of the horrible things that they've been doing within Call of Duty, she's mostly against. But I gotta be honest with you guys, after seeing this recent take, as much as I respect her stances on other things, this is a massive, massive no-go. But as you can see right here, looks good, but it won't survive if they don't add more competitive gameplay with smaller maps, guys. There's a lot of responses to this post, as you could probably already, imagine. But I have to give my 2 cents before we actually dive into some of these responses. This is exactly what we don't need within the Battlefield community. I'm sorry to say it. And I'm sorry to all the Call of Duty fans who just can't really dabble within Battlefield. It's not really your cup of tea, but this isn't the direction that Battlefield should be pointing towards. Let's be real here, guys. Battlefield is literally the last standing casual FPS game you could possibly think of. Every other FPS game that I think of nowadays is hyper-competitive, and people are competing like their lives are on the line. The only one before all of this stuff in Battlefield was X-Defiant, which purposely had no skill-based matchmaking, allowing you to actually have a casual experience. But now that X-Defiant's gone, Battlefield is literally the lone title that allows you to kick back and actually relax while you play an FPS game. I know it's a foreign concept nowadays, but it's still alive and you can still play it. The last thing in the universe that EA DICE should be focusing on right now is making the Battlefield formula more competitive along with smaller maps. That is quite literally the last thing they should be prioritizing. Battlefield is known for large battles, vehicle warfare, tons of variety in gameplay, class options, and teamwork. That is what the basis of Battlefield is all about. I'm sorry to say, and I'm not trying to be rude here or sound rude, but Call of Duty, if you are against the skill-based matchmaking brackets of COD, and you don't like the direction that they're taking right now, and you are actively, going towards making it a more casual experience, COD has literally went down that road, right? COD has turned into a more competitive game. It went from one of the best casual shooters you could possibly think of, where you can just hop on, play for 2 matches, 20 minutes total, and have a great experience without having to worry like you're playing in a tournament. It went from that to every match being a $5,000 tournament every single time around. If you are actively against that, why are you trying to force Battlefield into the direction of, once again, more competitive gameplay and smaller maps, just like what they did with Black Ops 6 here, or pretty much all the more modern Call of Duty games? That just doesn't add up to me whatsoever. I get it. I think the point that she's trying to make is, in order to make sure Battlefield thrives a lot and gets a lot of new viewers and a lot of new players, then that's what they should prioritize. But that's not what Battlefield needs now. Battlefield doesn't have to tap into the competitive scene. Battlefield needs to worry about their own fans to begin with. We have been screwed over for practically 2 different introductions. Again, Battlefield 5 has gotten a lot better by the end of its life cycle, but in reality, we've had 2 different games where it's been a long process of trying to make them better, and even at the very end, it's still something that the community isn't really completely okay with. We don't need them to hyper-focus on avoiding Conquest and all these other modes. We need them to hyper-focus on making sure Conquest and Breakthrough, or whatever they want to bring in, operations, whatever modes that they're planning on, we need to make sure that those are perfect right out the box. And if they are, then yeah, we can move over to making some more competitive style of gameplay if they really want to. But that needs to be priority number one. Nothing more, nothing less. And let me ask you guys one more question. When you think back to the history of Battlefield, what do you remember this franchise for? Do you remember it for its epic moments, large-scale battles, and insane, team play moments? Or do you remember it for hyper-competitive gameplay, calling out like every last dollar is on the line? It's a difference between calling out in hectic, chaotic moments when things are exploding around you and you're immersed into the experience, and calling out, like I said, you're playing for money. Two completely different vibes. And when I personally think back to the history of Battlefield, the last thing I think of is small condensed maps that are made for competitive gameplay. That's the last thing I think of. And again, I want to know what you guys think down below. But with that being said, let's hop into the actual responses to this overall post, because a lot of people made some good points here under this tweet. First and foremost, by Ben saying, "It's Battlefield. The game has never been about competitive gameplay or overly small maps. There will obviously be a Operation Locker map on the game, but Battlefield is about larger than just you maps, with its being more team-oriented." I read it word by word. It sounded a little funky, but you guys get the exact point. Ben made, a good solid one there. But the response from Alex is, "Don't blame me because there was a shift. Majority don't play Conquest maps anymore." Huh? Guys, seriously, go down in the comment section and let me know what you play on Battlefield. Do you play Battlefield for the smaller maps, or do you play Battlefield for the larger maps? Or, not just larger maps, because they have other maps like Operation Lockers and stuff like that. But the best thing I should say is, do you play Conquest and all that type of stuff, or do you hyper-focus on the very competitive modes that they, sometimes introduce into the game? Again, for me, I'm a Conquest lover. Even when Rush is implemented into the game back in the day, I still loved Conquest. So did many people who played Battlefield. I don't get this point whatsoever, but here's a response right here from Blues. "Battlefield is Battlefield, not COD. Battlefield 4 and 3 and Battlefield 1 still have very active player bases because they are large open maps with creativity and fun vehicle combat." The response: "Yeah, a bunch of old dudes sitting at home on their Xbox doesn't count. There is a major shift in first-person shooters. Look what they did to Call of Duty. It's fluking Fortnite." The response here from CR: "So on one side, you're saying Battlefield needs to change to survive and can't stay like it used to be. But then you're saying Call of Duty is bad now because they've changed it compared to how it was." That's what I was saying earlier, right? When I was describing that, it's like Call of Duty, you're saying that you don't want it to be competitive anymore in COD. But at the same time, you're saying in order for Battlefield to thrive and stay alive, it needs to become competitive. So on and so forth. But, to finish it off, Battlefield has always been about big maps with vehicles. And the response: "No, I'm saying they need to add more options outside of the Conquest mode." And the response to this one, very simple, by Kentucky: "They always have had other modes." And that's perfect, right? They have always had other modes in Battlefield. They have always had those competitive style modes in Battlefield. They even have TDM for the small combat on condensed maps. Guess where the player base goes, ladies and gentlemen? Guess why EA DICE hyper prioritizes Conquest, Breakthrough, Operation, all of the larger modes? Because that's where the people go for Battlefield. Battlefield is not known to be a competitive shooter. It's known for casual fun. I know I talk my smack about this franchise, and me and many others have said if they fail this game, then Battlefield is done for. Battlefield is going to be in the dumps. There's no way they can recover. But in all reality, Battlefield has just as big of a following of active people who want to see this game thrive compared to Call of Duty. For the love of God, just to get into the testing phase, there was over 1 million signatures. That's just for the testing phase. No advertisements, no trailers, no anything. The mass majority of the public who doesn't care about using socials or anything like that to see what's going on have not heard about this yet, okay? And over 1 million people already want to get in. Now imagine when pre-orders open, or again, you guys know me, I don't think you should pre-order any game. It's just kind of a corny practice nowadays, and it gives developers money before they even launch these projects. Back in the day, you would pre-order to guarantee a copy because they had limited copies at midnight. Nowadays, you get unlimited copies no matter what. I don't see the purpose in it. But you guys get what I'm saying. When trailers come out and they actually advertise the game, and pre-orders open up, so on and so forth, that 1 million plus people who are signing up to play that game is going to probably double, triple, maybe even quadruple. Guaranteed. Battlefield has a very, very hardcore audience, and they are not signing up for this game to play competitive 6v6 combat. I know others are going to argue with this, and it's understandable. These are all opinions, and I know some people do want more competitive stuff to happen in Battlefield, but when I play Battlefield personally, all my friends and everybody I know, they don't hop into this game to sweat their nuts off. It's the last thing they're thinking of, and they don't want this game to become a competitive shooter with condensed small maps. That's not Battlefield. That's COD. That's literally COD. We're not trying to turn Battlefield into COD. We're trying to allow Battlefield to have and still maintain its own identity. This is why I always say this is the biggest problem with the Call of Duty community. Everybody always claims their community is the most toxic, whether it's the CSGO community, Overwatch, Battlefield. Everybody always claims their community is the most toxic, but COD has always been the most toxic, and it's for this main reason right here. They go to every single game, and like I said, I'm trying not to be offensive here, but it's the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. They go to every single game they see, and they try to critique it with a Call of Duty mindset. If you guys know, on this channel, I never do such. When I critique Rainbow Six Siege, I'm going in with a mindset that I'm going into a tactical shooter that's going to be a lot more focused on team play, slower paced movement, thinking of all that stuff. When I go to critique it, I critique it with that mindset. I don't go in saying, it's not fast enough. I need some slide canceling in here. I need to be able to quick scope, and I need to have, streaks in Rainbow Six Siege. I don't do that because that's not what Rainbow Six Siege is, and that's not what it grew off of. I don't go into Battlefield doing that either because I respect Battlefield for what it is, for the vibes that it has to offer, and it needs to excel at what it's doing and not copy Call of Duty, because if it copies Call of Duty, it's going to run into the trenches. I'm just saying right here, right now, they need to make sure they focus on their own vibes. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, go down in the comment section. Leave your opinions about all of this stuff. Do you think that Alex is in the right, or do you disagree with her? And leave your opinions on why you agree or disagree. I'd love to read them all. Again, these are all opinions. I know people get so butthurt by what I have to say on these videos. I know. I don't know why I offend so many. Every single day, there's 10 plus people who are absolutely offended. It's probably because of the way that I talk, but I always amp it up a little bit on these YouTube videos. So does every other content creator, Who wants to listen to a commentary that's just like this? Oh man, Battlefield news just dropped and all of this. No, you gotta step it up a little bit, get a little flow into the commentary, and I think that irritates some, especially when they don't care for the particular person's style. But in reality, these are all opinions, ladies and gentlemen. We're all sitting here on the internet talking about video games. There's nothing life or death about any of this stuff. If this game survives or flops, it's not going to dictate whether your next 4 or 5 years are going to go good for you IRL. It's a video game. We're sharing opinions. It is what it is. So go ahead and leave them down below. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. We post daily here at 8 morning Eastern time. And of course, if you guys are interested in any of my live streams, I do stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, if you guys are interested, I got a link to that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.